Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Don't miss Tottenham versus Liverpool on Super Sunday. Live only on Sky Sports.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. Football Saturday. Remember, our coverage on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Watch Arsenal versus Brighton in the Women's Super League this Saturday, live only on Sky Sports. I beg your pardon, it is Sunday. Arsenal against Brighton in the Women's Super League, thanks to Sky Sports. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation. Listen on News Talk. Watch us as well on the digital and social channels for Periscope and Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app for iOS and Android. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download it if you haven't already. We're joined by the former Republic of Ireland and Liverpool defender Mark Lawrenson, Irish Independent football correspondent Dan McDonnell, and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward to talk about the beautiful game. Aston Villa against Burnley is off. 6 Premier League games now postponed this weekend because of COVID-19 positives. Are we going behind closed doors, Laro? What's the vibe over in Liverpool at the moment?
Well, nobody knows, do they? Because obviously it's changing rapidly, John. But I can't believe that the Premier League said to all the chief execs and owners of the football clubs that they won't speak till Monday, because as we know, it develops day by day, this thing. So, I mean, the Villa game getting called off, just under 2 hours before it was due to play is ridiculous when you think about it. And with all these things, it's always the supporters who cop it. In the end, the Burnley fans will have been on the way, etc. I think when the Brentford manager said the other night, let's forget about Boxing Day. Let's have a kind of a reset and see where we are. I think that's probably one of the best things that anybody said. I know other people said, let's keep playing, let's do this, let's do that. Look, there's going to be loads of games called off. This thing's not going away. If we can cast your mind back to when, the first with COVID-19 and everything, we didn't see football for ages for a while. And then, of course, as the question you just asked me about, no punters in the stadium, that's going to come, isn't it? It's bound to come if we can play. That's the other thing, if the players can play. But the big thing for me and the worst thing is that there's a high percentage of players in the Premier League who've not been vaccinated. I mean, you own it to anybody, to actually get a vaccination. If you're mixing with people, I really seriously do not get that at all.
And Jurgen Klopp's been a good leader on that this week.
Yeah, he speaks loads of sense. Well, you know what he did? He got them all together and he said, look, boys, we've already been through this, right? He said, so this is my fix on it again, is, boosters, everybody, they've all had the second vax that I know, because they all decided together to go and do it. They made one big decision on behalf of everybody. And I presume now that they've all had the booster jab, etc. So, and, he's such a sensible person, because he explained it to his players. He said, look, I know nothing about this. When COVID first struck, I know nothing about it. He said, so what do? He said, I ring my mate who's a specialist in Germany. And he said to me, go and get vaccinated. He said, get 1 and 2, and then you might need another. But he's just saying to him, go and get vaccinated. So what he's saying is he went to somebody who knows exactly everything about it, took his advice, and then said to the players, this is what my man said. And they went, right, OK, we'll all go and do it.
And naming the players as well that are out.
Yeah, well, what's there to hide?
Yeah.
It is what it is, isn't it? And I mean, other clubs going, I'm not sure who it is. And look, just if they've got it, they've got it. So I don't really see what the issue is. I mean, it's a massive thing. Yet again, let's have a bit of honesty about it. But the Premier League worry me. They really seriously do. About they're so frightened of making a wrong decision and doing the wrong thing. I can get it a little bit, but at least come on straight away and said, look, this keeps changing. We were going to have a meeting today, whatever. We postponed it to Monday to see exactly where we are. But all we get is these messages when the games are called off, and it's absolute bull, to be honest with you, John.
Yeah, and lads, any player not vaccinated is putting other people at risk and also increasing the possibility of a stop-start season.
Yeah, it's disappointing that we're talking about this now, JD. The Klopp thing about naming the players, that was one thing in the whole COVID, situation that I couldn't really get my head around. Why there was all this secrecy about who may or may not have COVID. It's not like it's a shameful thing to happen. It's obviously spreading quite rapidly now, as we see with these games called off. But I think he's led the way on it. We've had lots of controversies. Obviously, we're going to talk about Ireland today. Callum Robinson, obviously, his views on it is, there are a lot of footballers who, for whatever reason, don't want to get the vaccine. And there is a situation where, it is kind of of your choice. But ultimately, it's leading to situations now, JD, where obviously unvaccinated people and vaccinated people are getting it. But if you're not vaccinated, it's going to result in a lot of games called off. And as Laura said, it is difficult for fans 2 hours before kick-off. And I'm just really, really satisfied that the League of Ireland is over, because crowds are now being reduced here, and we'd probably be dealing with this mess over here as well if it were still going.
Yeah, Dan, and maybe more managers and players should be speaking out like Klopp did.
No, I guess so. And I think there's this sort of this sort of reluctance to do. I think maybe the reluctance to name people at the start might have been to do with the fear that, like in some way, I don't. The players not wanted to be known because you might be inhibited with this virus in the long run. There was fears around that, and I don't really understand that. Having had it myself in the last couple of weeks, it's sort of it's pretty common to have it, and there's no sort of shame or stigma around it. It just so happens. But I don't know where this goes. Like I don't really. Like you want sort of people to speak about it. John, yes, you would like that, and I mean the stats of the Premier League are sort of somewhat anomalous, like that it's 68% or something, whereas some of the other major leagues in Europe it's 95, 94, 96%, which is probably like a reflection maybe of, I mean, in England as well, like clearly, I mean, there's some reticence and reluctance there, and whatever, you can go off on a tangent and trace that to leadership and certain things that have happened. But I mean, what we are obviously seeing at the moment is that players who are double jabbed are contracting the virus, and people who are contracting the virus. And I don't know, like you're heading into a very strange year next year anyway, with the Qatar World Cup being in December, and a sort of a weird schedule like that. I mean, the Premier League again so desperate to try and preserve itself and preserve its schedule, that I mean the Premier League is playing right up until a week before the World Cup in Qatar starts, and clearly there is going to be a backlog created here. There is going to be an issue created here, and we're probably going to go back to playing those games around the clock. But I don't know what the easy solution is. I don't know. I do agree with Laura and it was Sean Dyche who said it, that like I think probably this doesn't serve any purpose for anyone at the moment. Like games going at 2 hours notice. It's I understand there's something sacrilege about the Stephen's Day fixtures, the Boxing Day fixtures as it is over there. There's big money in them. I know up north here, like they don't even want to play a winter league or summer league, because part of it is that these fixtures are so huge. But I think they're probably going to have to go for once, maybe give players a bit of time over the festive period, so they're not even worried about bringing it to their families over Christmas as well too. And there's just a whole lot of stuff that would make you uncomfortable. Take the break, take stock, and see where you go in January, because even the whole integrity of the competition's been all over the place as well too.
John, I just wonder, what if you said to the players who haven't been vaccinated, you're making yourself unavailable for the team, therefore you can't play, and therefore you can't be paid, which might be more relevant. Do you think they'd all suddenly start getting vaccinated?
Maybe, but are you into all kinds of legal issues around that kind of thing? Is it the right thing?
We've seen a bit of precedent with regard to, Google doing that. One of the big supermarket chains as well, compelling their workers to get vaccinated, JD. I just wonder, though, what makes footballers more intelligent than everyone else that they shouldn't get vaccinated? I know they're footballers and they're elite sports people, but if in the current environment, it's so rampant that if you're not vaccinated, you're going to cause serious problems, because there's obviously a very good chance that you're going to get it.
But it's a reflection of the thing is that in that age bracket of footballers in the UK, sort of most footballers are in between the sort of 18 to 32, I suppose, 33 bracket. There is a degree of vaccine resistance in that age cohort in the UK. We've even seen it around the discussions around introducing sort of vaccine passports for gyms. A lot of people who are sort of fitness freaks who go to the gym and stuff, they don't want to take the vaccine. They have and I don't want to generalize and sort of because there's loads of people in that world who are, but there certainly is within that world a reluctance to go there with it. And I mean we do see, I think if people follow sort of social media, you will see There's a sort of a number of footballers who are very much disposed towards some of the more, conspiracy theory sort of vein of thinking, or very energised by the likes of sort of like Matt Letizia now, sort of renowned, suddenly, sort of an artist on the pitch, but we didn't actually know he was a sort of a scientist off it, in the sense that he's suddenly leading a movement. But a lot of players are listening to that. That is the world that they operate in, and like there's different grades. Like there are some players who very strongly believe that. I actually had a small bit of sympathy for someone like Callum Robinson, who probably was just come into the press conference with Ireland a couple of months back and was just honest, but really the more he spoke about it, you could see, to be blunt, he hadn't necessarily been a deep thinker on the subject. Like, he didn't necessarily have a principled stand on it. He wasn't an anti-vaxxer or anything. He just wasn't in his circle something that was being done, and he just hadn't really done it. And there's a lot of footballers that we can maybe come at it from a perspective here where maybe we all sound like we have the same opinion, and some people will have an issue with that, that there's no variety of views here on this. But there would be footballers in their world who are hearing different opinions around them and are following that. But the idea of making it mandatory, I'd imagine you'd probably just fall into some obstacles around that, because there will be case studies of people who will say there's some religious issue or something that will stop them from doing it that would become a centre point for it. But you do wonder if it's going to go that way, particularly when it comes to maybe players who want to travel and play and stuff or whatever. Do you need to have done something?
And obviously football is wedded to money, Mark, and it's going to be, even from the other side, the health of the players with burnout and the calendar and the demands on them. Like, it's a runaway train, and especially with postponements now.
You say that, but the top clubs, that's all they do. Play, 3 times a week, loads. If you're successful, that's the way that it is, John. And listen, the other thing, it's going to be the same for everybody, is it not? Eventually, if and when this is sorted. And just another point I'd like to make about the vaccine thing is, don't you think all the doctors at these football clubs are saying to these lads privately, if they have a conversation, look, it's in your best interest to get vaccination, surely? Yeah,
and especially with Omicron now, which seems to be much more contagious as a variant, maybe a milder variant, and we don't know the ins and outs of it, but there's more of a likelihood that it's going to be more prevalent in society. So I don't know. It's not the easiest thing to be talking about, to be honest. 1 week out of Christmas, heading back to matches behind closed doors. I wonder if the lads at the African Cup of Nations are going to happen at all, even now.
That does appear to be. Although in some ways, having a tournament in one place in one country, where teams are in firm bubbles within it, is possibly in some ways easier to manage than some other things where. I think isn't that part of the view around the Premier League, is that maybe that the protocols they were operating weren't as strict as they were back at the start of Project Restart, and they just need to go back and even maybe in a way having that circuit breaker might be a way of doing it, because like a lot of players, like a lot of people in life, it would appear life is going on as normal to some degree in parts of the UK, so you'd assume the players are doing that. They're not stopping themselves going to restaurants or whatever, did a couple of clubs even have sort of Christmas bashes and stuff like that, whatever they possibly might have in the last couple of weeks. That all has to stop,
Yeah. I mean, you guys are probably not cricket fans.
I don't mind a bit of cricket, Laura.
Right. Well, I was up early this morning watching England, which is always fun.
Even though you're Irish.
Yeah, obviously. But it's the laughable part of it, which is great, because they always collapse when they go to Australia because they wet themselves. But they were saying today there, I think it was the lunch break, and they were saying that, all the players from both Australia and England, when they're allowed to go out at night, but they're only allowed to go out and eat outside. They're not allowed to eat inside, which I think actually was quite a clever thing to do, no?
And also summer there as well, which helps.
Well, there is that to it. What's wrong with the frozen north? There's nothing wrong with it, Michael.
Yeah.
I think taking a break, like it is just to get a handle on things and just to see where things are. Like there's a lot of that, putting the foot in the ball rather than this constant sort of degree of suspense about what fixtures might go in the next couple of days.
Well,
I don't think that really achieves
It's
anything.
getting it back to where it was, isn't it, with the like strict regulations. I mean, like Jurgen Klopp is saying, when we go to our car, and like this in the last few days, where it could be the case that they've got to get into bubbles again or behind closed doors, because ultimately the Premier League will decide, we got to get this finished, lads, because it's all about the money, all about the broadcasting contracts, and fulfilling those.
That whole point, and we'll probably talk about this throughout the show with Ireland's 4 games in June. Like the demands placed on players is getting to the levels of insane at this stage, and because of the World Cup this year is ridiculous. But the players, we have to stop thinking that they're very well paid and they should get on with it, because the demands placed on players at the top level now is absolutely absurd. And I've spoken to a few people in the game this week who would have serious alarm about the fixture list that Ireland have to face in the 4 days, going to Yerevan after playing Ukraine at home, coming back then to play Scotland, all of this in the space of 10 days. That's to do with Qatar. But if you add in COVID cancellations as well, and as you say, JD, the Premier League's insistence that we get through the calendar, players will be coming out of the Premier League season with their clubs probably not wanting them to play for Ireland, but they will themselves want to play for Ireland. They'll be extending the season into June, I think it ends in early May, and all of this is complete madness really. And I think that the players' rights, as much as they're well paid, shouldn't be lost in this either.
53106, you want to get in touch? What went on this week, I suppose? There's only one of these, like, almost a review of the weeks at this stage, given there's nothing to talk about at 3 o'clock.
We have nothing to talk about.
Or at least we're not going back to reviewing World Cups from the 70s, which were very popular, obviously.
That was one of the best things we've ever done on the show.
I know, but at least we do hopefully have we have things that have happened in the last week to still discuss.
Yeah.
What was your first cup memory, Lauro?
My first what?
World Cup memory.
My first World Cup memory would have been 66.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was 9, and I remember when it went to extra time, me and my mate Stephen Dewhurst playing football in the garden, and I was Germany and he was England, but I won.
You still remember?
There was no contentious goals, obviously, was there at the time, or nothing?
They were. I battered him, to be honest with you. Absolutely. He's never ever forgiven me. Mind you, he was crap at football, so I should have battered him as well.
We spoke about this at the time, Judy. Was that like what was the TV situation in Ireland around that time like?
It was on in Ireland. Obviously, it was the most watched broadcast in the UK. I think it was 30 million people watching on BBC or ITV. In black and white. Black and white, yeah. But Laura, you've been to World Cup finals as a broadcaster with BBC with Motti, haven't you?
I think I've done about 5 now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been obviously really, really lucky. I mean, they're absolutely fabulous. When you don't particularly worried about your team winning, they're just great events to go to. And in every single country that I've been, it's just that it's all it is. It's on dominates radio, TV, travel, absolutely everything. And you're probably the good thing as well is you see the country in a really good light because everybody's happy basically because they're staging this massive kind of world show for everyone.
This will be the first proper tainted one in that regard.
I just think, isn't it mad that yesterday, December 17th, like 1 year on, is the World Cup final. Like this day next year will be reflecting on the World Cup final, which is sort of
money again, chaps. Eh?
Yeah. It's the new level. It's a new level.
The best one you were at, Laro? Best World Cup?
Oh, crikey. Best World Cup. I like Brazil. Not necessarily the final, just Brazil was like brilliant in every single way. The only problem about Brazil, and I mean, and because obviously I was on a plane nearly every other day, and they have this system in Brazil in terms of flying, which is, so you go up sort of the left of the country, you have to fly back to sort of, whether it be Rio, or Sao Paulo to go on the other side of the country, John. Basically, you couldn't fly from one side of the country to the other. You had to go back to go up and stuff. So I did unbelievable amount of miles. But I didn't realise until after about a week or so, obviously, big suitcase, because I'm there for 5 weeks and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, it sounds a ball ache, chucking your bag on, your suitcase and all that kind of thing, queuing at the airport. And then I saw this guy from FIFA who I'd seen him at different airports, and I was just in this long queue, and he walked past. He said, "What are you doing in that?" I said, "I'm waiting to check in for the plane." He went, "You said no, you're thinking you've got a pass for everywhere." I said, "Well, that's just for the games." He went, No. He says, "Come with me." And bloody UEFA, excuse my French, FIFA, every terminal you went to had 4 separate desks for FIFA designated people.
Wow.
It took me 2 weeks to find out.
Special people.
Dan, did you have any of these designated lanes?
I was in Brazil for 7 weeks. I don't think I found that person. I'm gutted now, to be honest. I could have got out of here. I'm trying to think. I do remember. I didn't do probably as much flying, but I do remember that system of having to fly back. Yeah, you had to go. Like every sort of trip seemed to be like a double header where you had to go back to Rio or Sao Paulo, I think it was, or whatever it was. I mean, it was a great tournament, but I didn't necessarily. I went to like Manaus, which was up in the Amazon, and I think I went to Fortaleza, which was up in that neck of the woods as well. But I didn't go to some of the other ones, which you probably did by the sounds of it. You know, was it Salvador or a couple of those places? Was it?
I mean, because the story about Brazil is they moved the capital city and land, didn't they? Because they always felt that they didn't want it by the sea, just in case they got attacked or invaded, and they wanted it to be more inland. And I can't remember the name of it. Was it
Brazil? Well, they did. Well, Brasilia. Brasilia is then where they actually built that big stadium, Brasilia, which was complete White Elephant Stadium, because they didn't have a top level club in there. Which I don't know, there was some story recently. Was that stadium either knocked or they were doing like monster truck racing in it or something? Like a lot of the stadiums in Brazil were just completely redundant once the competition finished, which is the sad but sort of familiar World Cup story.
I've never got into the monster truck race myself.
Oh yeah, and they built it, John, on the American way. You know, where obviously they build the roads all in grids and stuff like that. But it was the most boring city ever. It was useless, honestly. Seriously, it was.
It was dull.
We only have one game today then at 5:30, if that doesn't get called off in the next few minutes, being cynical. Leeds against Arsenal, Mark. Aubameyang, should they just cut their losses?
Yeah. Well, don't you look at that and just substitute his name for Ozil? Isn't that where we're at? It's exactly the same, is it not? I mean, I can't remember if it was you guys I was telling lately the other day about... Alex Scott, the girl who presents Football Focus.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So she obviously played for Arsenal, played for a long time, and captained the team and stuff like that. And last season, she was due to do an interview with Aubameyang. He kept her waiting 4 hours, and in the end, he didn't turn up. Now, I'm sorry. Even if he didn't want to do it, and probably he'd agreed to do it, and then suddenly thought, I can't be bothered. I've got something better. Even if he just texted her and gone, look, I'm really, really sorry. I can't do it today. Something's cropped up. Can I do it another day? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the press officer at Arsenal was ringing and texting and emailing Aubameyang and nothing. And so I think then you realise you're in trouble. And it looks to me at the moment that in that dressing room, I think secretly they're all delighted that he's not even training with them. And I think that's why probably Arteta's done it. He's probably gone in the dressing room, Aubameyang's not around, and he's thinking, wow, this is completely different. There's a nice mixture of the kids and the energy and the experienced players and everything. And he's thought, this is for me. So, yeah, cut your losses, thank you very much. I think we said on the programme the other day, why didn't Jurgen Klopp take him when he could have taken him? Well, now we know why.
Well, Miguel Delaney's written about it, that Aubameyang is liked by some of the players, and there's a lackadaisical there's a kind of a carefree, apparently, nature to him. But I suppose if you're on 350 grand a week, and if you've only scored 4 goals this season, and in your first 2 full seasons you score 22 goals each time, there's an obvious decline in your performance. And if you're causing Mikel Arteta, who seems to be trying to change the culture of Arsenal, whether he's been successful at that or not, he's not going to fit in with the culture of Arteta wanting people to, I suppose, be on discipline. So yeah.
Well, you've got to have discipline, John. You don't have discipline, you've got no chance.
Yeah.
Really, you haven't. You can't have discipline. You've got to have it.
Like William Gallas, Granit Xhaka, it's not the first time. There's something in that club. There's something in the club, and it's not me just because I'm Spurs fan.
But they made him captain as well. Like, which is sort of
something. It's not the club of Bold and Adams and Vieira and that kind of strength of character. Maybe Arteta's trying to get that back, and maybe he might get it back, because it seems like these young lads are like Emile Smith-Rowe, Saka, Martinelli. There's a positivity about these guys.
Shouldn't be lost at their 4th. Like, they're up to 4th after
that's
that
it.
win.
I mean, they're not. But it's like one moment they're very good the other night against West Ham, but that was after a brutal performance at Goodison.
Well, I think they've got that in them a little bit, haven't they? But that John, might be something to do with the younger players, where they can be great for 2 or 3 games and then they fall off a little bit. And maybe that's when you should leave them out. But that's probably what that is. But they're looking like they're starting to look like a good side. I don't still think they'll finish 4th because I think Man United will. But if, of course, the league gets finished, but they're definitely on the up.
Kieran Tierney, I think, is important maybe to give him the armband.
You see a bit of steel in Arteta's interviews now as well. I think I've just detected, particularly pre-game, he's kind of quite to the point. He's not hanging around. He has I think his body language has changed sort of since the start of the season. They lost their first 3 games. Just looking since, they've won 9 out of the subsequent 14 games, and to get up to 4th considering the position they were in, as you say, they're still inconsistent, Judy, but Arteta's really turned around from the position they're in. He was hot favourite to get the first managerial sack after 3 games.
Well, listen, they applied to have their game called off the first game of the season at Brentford, didn't they? Because they had COVID.
Look where we are now.
Look where we are now, indeed.
Yeah, Leeds, are they? I think they could be in danger here, Mark. I'm looking at 5 points from safety, but in 16th. Calvin Phillips out, Bamford out, Cooper out, Rodrigo out, Daniel James out today. Is there a danger they maybe reach the end of the road under Marcelo Bielsa? They don't have a strong enough squad?
Well, I don't think they've got a strong enough squad, but you mentioned Cooper. I mean, God love him, he's been good in the Championship. He was decent last year, but he can't run, John, which is one of the problems at the back. They've started to get very porous. The only thing I would think about Leeds is that if we get a January transfer market, I think they'll go in for it because, you'd rather maybe have to overspend for the team to stay in the league rather than lose Bielsa. By the same token, he might decide he's had enough as he's done before and walk away from it. I don't get that feeling. But I mean, they're down to their bare bones tomorrow. Literally, they've got kids apparently going to play on the bench. But I think they'll be okay. I do think that they will be okay. But it won't be good watching.
Yeah, probably because of Rafinha. It'll be the only reason they're okay. That's a 5:30 start.
But I think Bamford gets fit again. All those years where we kept looking at Bamford, all going out on loan to Premier League teams and going, he's not good enough, he's not strong enough, he's not this and he's not that. And now they miss him probably almost as much as they miss Phillips.
We could do with him here, and it never really happened, lads, didn't it? With Bamford.
Yeah,
it was a flirtation, or I don't know who even was there flirtation.
But I remember when we were. I think Dan has brought this up before. I was over at a Leeds game during Cheltenham and with a few racing personalities that were massive Leeds fans, and they weren't afraid to ask him. They were kind of players were hanging around outside the ground. I think it was in Reading the game, and they asked him at the time, and he said, he hadn't made his mind up. But I think it was fairly obvious that Stephen Kenny was never going to be of the mind that he was going to chase people like a desperate, would-be lover. It just wasn't going to happen.
And Bamford had no interest, and to be fair, spoke very well about his reasons for doing it. So I don't think there's any real issue there. And Mick McCarthy tried. I'm pretty sure Martin O'Neill did as well too. The extent of the flirtation, I don't think Bamford even could be charged of playing the game maybe some players did in the past. He wasn't looking to play one off for the other or something like that. There was none of that with him.
Aguero retired this week, Mark. Very sad. Heart condition, 33 years of age at Barcelona. Was he in the top 11 Premier League players of all time? Yeah,
absolutely. Loved him. Brilliant. And when you looked at him, short, squat, a little bit chubby sometimes. You didn't think he was particularly quick, but he was. Very quick off the mark. And look at the goals that he scored. You tend to think straight away, he scored loads of goals inside the 6-yard box and stuff. He scored loads of goals everywhere, and his finishing was sensational. His first touch as well was brilliant. And by the way, I mean, you'd kick him and he'd kick you back. Well, he's like all the Argentinians, South Americans like that. You can't boot them off the football park because they've seen it all before. But absolutely loved him. You can just tell with the rest of the players that they appreciated, and for his manager to go over to the press conference to say goodbye to him, I thought was an absolutely fantastic touch, but it also tells you something about Guardiola and his players.
Dan and I have had a bit of banter recently about the taxi drivers that I've picked up since I've been a little bit incapacitated, and during the week, and Anto Flood, who would have played for St. Pat's and Go United, ended up giving me a car ride. But another guy was this Albanian taxi driver, and he was just saying, like, I completely fallen out of love with football because, like, the people are on far too much money. And when you see the likes of Aguero, the money that he's made, how much it meant to him, like how sad he was, like that tearful kind of press conference where for all the money that he's made, the shock of not being able to play anymore just brought it down to human level. And maybe it's kind of like South American thing, maybe just a special relationship they have with football there, particularly like Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, and it was emotional to see him because it was gone, like.
Well, I think the point about it is that, like, players always like to try and go out on their own terms as much as they possibly can. And to be honest, no matter how good the player is, like, it's well known that so many players face difficulty. They're scared when they retire because all of a sudden the structure that has defined their life is gone. No matter how good or bad a pro or whatever they were, a lot of them struggle because of that sort of drift that they find when they finish playing. So I suppose someone like Aguero, who still thought his race had plenty left to run, for it to be cut down just like that in those circumstances, I can understand that emotion.
We have Eriksen as well, obviously leaving Milan, Inter Milan. So
and Laro, you to retire early because of an Achilles. How did you deal with it mentally at the time?
I went and worked for bloody the big fat bastard, didn't I? Maxwell. The only good thing about that, John, was I'm saying it was a good thing. It was at the time. I had lunch with Ghislaine Maxwell one day. Did I tell you that story?
This has to be
Mark. Mark. I think we told the story.
No.
Yeah.
I just literally I was invited by they lived down the road from the stadium at Oxford, and she invited me there for lunch one day. We had a nice conversation, and that was it, basically.
You sold. We had this debate before. You had to sell Dean Saunders because of him, wasn't that the case?
Yeah, I did. If you remember that Daddy Maxwell, as I called him, owned both Derby and Oxford.
Wow.
Yeah. So, which obviously is not allowed anymore. And Arthur Cox was the manager of Derby, and I'd been a kid at Preston. I was like 13, 14, used to go in for training on Tuesday and Thursday night from school. And Arthur Cox was the first team coach alongside Alan Ball Senior. Okay. And Cox used to turn up. And I was a left winger in those days, a spindly little, like, frightened of everything. And I always wondered why I used to play right back against. We'd have like a little practice match, and they literally had a training pitch at the side of Deepdale in those days, now a car park, like everything else. And I'd get the ball, and he'd just come and kick me, no matter what I was doing with it or wherever. And like I was like middle-class schoolboy and all that. And it took me about 3 or 4 weeks to suddenly realise, like, what on earth? Anyway, one day the ball came to him, and I just absolutely went and just broke him in two. And he was on the floor, and he just looked up, and he got up, and he said, "Thanks, son." He said, "My work here now is done," and off he went. So he was just making the point to me that, you know what I mean, you've got to be a bit tough in this game and stuff. But anyway, sorry. So Arthur was manager of Derby, and Arthur would be coming to watch Oxford play. And I knew he was coming just to watch Dean, and I'd say to him, "What are you doing here?" I said, "You know, he's not going to Derby," because I got him to sign a new 3-year contract. And I had a guarantee off Kevin Maxwell, who was my chairman, that I could have him for a season. Okay, because we'd got relegated. I got there was about 8 games to go, and you could smell relegation. So trying to change the whole team around, but build it around him. And Maxwell said to me, "Right, you can have him for a year." And this was October, so it didn't last very long. Arthur Cox was in the secretary's office at the Manor Ground, and I got a phone call 2 hours before the game from Kevin Maxwell, who actually I got on great with. I was 30, he was 31. And he said to me, "Oh, Mark," he said, "Dean Saunders can't play today. I've agreed that he can go and talk to Derby." So I went, "What?" He said, "He can't play." And I went, I just put the phone down, and I played him, and he scored. But then I got another call subsequently at the end of the game. Coxie was at the match, all those kind of things. I got another phone call from Kevin saying, "You know, you've crossed me, whatever, we'll need to deal with that later." He said, "But he can go, he's now free to go and speak to Derby." So Dean came in, I got him in the office, and I obviously been tapped up. And I just said, "I know you've been tapped up. I don't have an issue with that." I said, "I've got an issue with Mr. Maxwell because I've got you. I thought I had you to the end of the season, but you know what? Good luck." So he said to me, "Oh, Gaffer," he said, "Can you do me a favour?" And I went, "I kind of, I'll try to." He said, what should I ask for? So I said, well, look, because this is very, very political, I said, there's no way when you go to talk to Mr. Maxwell at Derby that he will turn anything that you want down. I said, because he will not send you back to Oxford. Honestly, he might haggle a little bit. And I was with him. I was with Dean on Thursday this week, but, you know, he always tells a story that he got absolute fortunes. The only thing he didn't get was he asked for a Mercedes, and I think he got like a BMW or something. I said, well, you know, not a lot of difference between them, but Dean loves me now. And then basically then I said to Kevin Maxwell, late that night, I'd had a couple of beers, and I said, Kevin, I'm walking away from this. This is ridiculous. He said, no, we've got £1 million for Saunders. I said, we haven't got £1 million. We won't have £1 million. And by the way, I said, we've got £1 million, but now everybody knows we've got £1 million. If I go, I wanted this lad that played at Bristol Rovers, who was similar to Dean Saunders. I said, he was 250 grand like 2 weeks ago. I said, I go now, he's $750,000. So I said, he can stuff your job up your jacksie. And he said, I'll tell you what. He said, come tomorrow to the Mirror Buildings in Fleet Street, Fetter Lane in Fleet Street. He said, my dad will be coming back in the helicopter. He's in France. So I went the next day. And of course, I'm sat in the penthouse, and my stepfather was with me. The Oxford secretary was with me. Brian Horton was with me. He was my assistant and everything. And we sat there, and the helicopter came in, and he was a big fat bastard. Excuse my French. He was horrible. He was absolutely horrible. You'd ring him up. And I'd have to ring him up trying to get players for Oxford. Ring him, not Kevin. And he would just go, yes. He never said, oh, how you doing? You know, how's the team? He'd just go, yes. And it, right, whatever. So anyway, he came into this room, and I just remember, as long as my kids are alive, there was like a big table in the middle of this room, but it looked very, very fragile, and apparently had been imported from China, and he sat on it. And it just buckled a little bit, and I just thought, if there is a God,
Lara, okay.
Yeah, right. Anyway, he didn't. So he just looked at me, and he said to me again, what? So I just went for him, and I said, you know, you promised me this, you promised me that, and I'm sure this is not legal, and all those kind of things. And then, I took a breath, and he looked at me, a little pause, and he went, right. He said, actually, I quite admire the fact that you're standing up for yourself and obviously for Oxford. He said, but you know, at the end of the day, and I went, what? He said, it's F all to do with you, and just cleared off.
There we go.
Yeah, and the only good thing he did was he sacked me. He sacked me rather than me saying I'm resigning. Or I did say I was resigning. He said, no, you're sacked. But then again, the bad thing about that was he waited 7 months to pay me. But hey.
Well, on that note, we apologise for anybody who was offended by any language that Laura used, but it was bloody funny, and we're going to take a break.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. Remember, football on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Watch Leeds and Arsenal go head to head on Saturday Night Football live only on Sky Sports. We're joined by Mark Lawrenson, former Republic of Ireland and Liverpool defender, Irish independent football correspondent Dan McDonnell, and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward to talk about the beautiful game. 53106 for your text messages. You can also tweet us at Off the Ball. Latest scores from the Championship, because the Villa-Burnley game was postponed. So it is Middlesbrough 1, Bournemouth 0 at full time. Blackburn 1, Birmingham 0 is the latest. It is Blackpool 1, Peterborough 1, Bristol City 1, Huddersfield 1 is the latest score, and Nottingham Forest 0, Hull 1. And in Scotland, Rangers and Dundee United are goalless at half time. Dundee 0, Hearts 0, Livingston 0, Ross County 1, and Motherwell 1, St Johnstone 0. I was kind of thinking this is our last show before Christmas, lads. Johnny and Dan and Laura. Johnny, your favourite football moment, your best football moment of the year?
I suppose I'll give to the undercard is Gavin Bazuna's save from Ronaldo, because I think in terms of the Kenny era, if that game had gone badly Pete Tong, which it possibly could have if we went 1-0 down at that stage, and given the context of how it happened with us overplaying the ball kind of out from the back, I think that's the spirit of defiance that might define this Irish team, because the mental resilience of Bazuna to get up and just save the penalty was amazing, and it catapulted him to the world stage. But I'm going to go with we were having a chat about this yesterday, and Dan said I'd probably go for this. And
let's just be clear. I just reminded you of your favourite memories of the year.
Sure, why not?
You can't remember what happened last week.
Patrick, it's very true actually. Patrick McElhenney's goal for Dundalk against Vitesse Arnhem. It was a really weird season for Dundalk because they turned it on every now and then. But his goal against Vitesse Arnhem to go 2-1 up in a game, like in a proper stadium against a proper team in the Netherlands, and the quality of that goal. I thought it was a shame that people were kind of watching it. I can't even remember how I was watching, on a stream or something.
Probably illegally, I'd say. Yeah.
I think it was legal, alright, damn it. I don't know. What was yours, Dan?
Well, no, that was a great goal. Well, yeah, I would have probably. I mean, I always like to try and go for one I was at, and like the Bazunu one would have been up there, the penalty save and the drama. But I think, just speaking generally, and not one I was at, sadly. Messi, I think Messi winning Copa America with Argentina, I think definitely. At the moment of the full-time whistle, where again it was this sort of half-life existence where it was in the Maracanã but it was behind closed doors, but the full-time whistle blowing and all the Argentina players running to Messi because they know that's the story. Like, I know it was 28 years since Argentina had won a tournament, but everyone knew really it was about the symbolism of Messi finally having that major tournament with Argentina. And he's won pretty much everything else. Maybe he's never going to win that World Cup that he could have won in the same stadium with that sort of miss that he had that in that game. But I just thought for him, like, no matter what all these guys have, and all the players in that Argentina team, I'm sure there's times in their life where they love Messi, and there might even be times in their life where they might, in some ways could resent some of the stuff that could be around them, maybe, I don't know. But you saw them all running to him with the full-time whistle, and you saw that it actually genuinely did mean the world. So I think for me that would be a good contender for a football moment of 2021.
53106 listeners, if you want to get in touch with yours. Laro, your one?
Oh, yeah. Italy beating England in the Euros all day long. Listen, when you live over here, and look, they only played one game away in that competition, and they're all raving about this and they're raving about that, and England were good. You can't get away from that fact, but they weren't great. But you'd think they would, like Brazil from 1970, and I was actually in Canary Wharf doing the game for this company, and of course they're all mad English fans and everything, and I was keeping my gob shut as much as anything. But when they got beat and I had to drive home that night about 6 or 7 hours, I tell you what, it felt like 2 minutes. It was fabulous.
If the BBC asked you for your moment of the year, would you give that?
No. And you wouldn't be talking about Robert Maxwell either.
No, exactly. Come on, boys, get with it.
JD?
Fans back in stadiums. Simple as that. Luxembourg was an absolute nadir watching.
Forever a broadcaster.
Well, like the life is fans. Yeah. Life is football. It was nothing without fans.
Absolutely.
Was it the hurling final last year? It was brilliant to be there. Just a privilege to be there to see it. Waterford against Limerick, but with 200 people at an empty Croke Park in December, it was grim. And to go to that Portugal game in November, it was just fantastic.
Do you know, just on that, JD, so the whole Super League being kind of beaten down for now by the fans, that allied to the fact that it basically became quite obvious from the results that fans were the only difference in home advantage and not home advantage in grounds, because games behind closed doors, it didn't matter anymore statistically where the game was. The results were basically as if it were a neutral venue. So fans make that much of a difference. And as you say, comparing the 0-0 against Portugal and the atmosphere that night and the game against Luxembourg.
Yeah, OK, let's go to Croke Park now for an update on the AIB Leinster Club Football Championship semi-final between Shalmaliers of Wexford and Kildare's Naas. Owen Sheehan, what's the latest there?
Yeah, half-time here, and it is 1-6 to Shalmaliers, 6 points to Naas. I told you before throwing John not to write off any of the underdogs today, and that has certainly been the case here in the first half. Shalmaliers, much the better team. That being said, within the first 60 seconds we thought it would go to script. Luke Griffin had got in and pointed twice within the first 60 seconds to put Naas 2 points to nothing up. That really is it in terms of their dominance for this half, because Shalmaliers rallied extremely well and they got immediate dominance on the Naas kick-out. The Naas goalkeeper is still in school, severely inexperienced. He's been brilliant all campaign so far, but he suffered a little bit in the first quarter of the game. One of his kick-outs led to a goal from Owen Nolan for Shells, who palmed to the net in the 7th minute, and then moments later they should have had another one, John. Aaron Murphy, he took one extra solo. If he'd just gone straight to the net instead of taking that solo, they could have had a second goal for the day. And then moments later there was another bit of good fortune for Shalmaliers, because Naas got reduced to 14 men with Conor McCarthy and a foot trip leading him to being black carded. But during that 10 minutes, despite having the extra man, they couldn't go an extra score up and they failed to add to their lead. So they were 2 points up when Naas got their extra man back on the pitch. But 15 against 15 has not dissuaded Shelmaliers whatsoever here. They've added to their lead, in fact, and Glenn Malone, their midfielder, has kicked a third of his 3 frees in that first half, just an injury time here. So at half-time, it is the underdogs, the 5-1 underdogs. Earlier on this morning, Shelmaliers 1-6, Naas 6 points.
Thanks so much, Owen. Back to you in the second half there. Oulart the Balloch, the All-Ireland Camogie Club champions, 4-8 to 2-9 win over Sarsfields of Galway at Nolan Park. The long walk hurdle at Ascot has been won by Champ at a price of 4-1. John Joe O'Neill Jr. riding for Dickie Henderson in the colours of JB McManus. The Ansam was a 7-1 winner of the Silver Cup there. The Tommy Whittle chase at Haydock went to Encard at a price of 8-1 at Navan. There's been a couple of winners for Willie Mullins and a couple as well for Gordon Elliott, as you would expect on a regular card. In the Scottish Premiership, Rangers 0, Dundee United 0 is the latest score, and scores in the Championship as well. Middlesbrough 1, Bournemouth 0, Blackburn Rovers 1, Birmingham City 0, Blackpool 1, Peterborough 1 at half time, Bristol City 1, Huddersfield 1 is a half time as well, and Nottingham Forest 0, Hull 1. Aston Villa against Burnley was postponed. Only one Premier League game today, Leeds against Arsenal at half 5. Mark Lawrenson, Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward with you between 4 and 5. Lots to talk about, including Stephen Kenny and the Nations League. Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk is back after the news.
Off the Ball on News Talk. On radio, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud, and smart speaker. Play News Talk.
Now at Power City, save from €50 to €250 on a Bosch kitchen bundle when you buy 2 or more large Bosch kitchen appliances. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
Christmas is here. It's your turn to host. You want the best for the ones you love most. Aldi quality at prices so small help make this Christmas the most memorable of all. Roadworks award-winning IPA craft beer 500ml just $1.99. Tato party boxes $3.95. Celebrations Quality Street, Cadbury's Heroes and Rose's chocolate tubs only $3.99. And Victoria biscuits only $2.99. Aldi, make Christmas amazing for everyone. Get the facts, be drink aware, visit drinkaware.ie.
InsureMyCars.ie.
Don't cut corners on your car insurance. Get a better quote at InsureMyCars.ie, Ireland's trusted car insurance specialists. We search the market to get you the best cover at the lowest prices.
InsureMyCars.ie.
City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as InsureMyCars.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
When it comes to connecting with yourself, your bank thinks you go on a wild shopping spree. But at IKEA, we think you can create a soothing oasis using plant stands to let the greenery calm your mind. Every home should be a haven. IKEA, the wonderful everyday.
Business is back. More nimble and more digital, it's business accelerated. At Volkswagen Financial Services, we've got the funding solutions you need to get things really moving. Choose low-cost hire purchase, the flexibility of PCP, or the unique benefits of leasing. On every Audi, Skoda, Seat, Volkswagen commercial vehicle and Cupra. Visit vwfs.ie/accelerated and get ready for business accelerated. Finance provided by Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland, subject to lending criteria, terms and conditions apply.
I hear you some wiring needs a fixing, ma'am. The name's Buzz, on account of my work.
No chance.
Not all cowboys ride horses. All safe electric registered electrical contractors must give you a certificate of completion that shows their work meets approved standards. Find one nearby on safeelectric.ie.
Guaranteed Irish business members are working hard to support jobs, communities and help our economy recover and prosper beyond COVID and Brexit.
DID Electrical has been delivering, installing and demonstrating the latest home appliances and technology to our local communities for over 50 years. DID Electrical's dedicated team of 400 people working across 23 stores and online at did.ie continue to support thousands of customers to find their perfect appliance and technology solutions at unbeatable prices. Let's start our recovery with guaranteedirish.ie. Altogether better.
The stage is set for all the drama of the Champions Cup.
The sparkly showpiece of the club rugby season.
Watch every match live on BT Sport this season when you get Sky Sports and Sports Extra, now half price for 6 months. The players are ready. Are you? Get Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports half price for 6 months with Sky. Search Sky Sports Sale to join or upgrade now. New Sports customers only. Standard pricing applies after 6 months. Further terms apply.
I'm staring at the eviction notice. I'm frozen, terrified. I'm thinking about Laura, my little daughter, and my baby who'll be born into homelessness. Today, I can tell you straight up, if it wasn't for Threshold and the people who donate to them, me and my girls would be homeless.
Threshold saves 9 families every day from homelessness. Please support our At Home for Christmas appeal. Help us stop homelessness before it happens.
Visit threshold.ie to make an instant Christmas donation.
This ad is kindly supported by Supermax.
Millionaire Raffle from the National Lottery is back, with 1 millionaire guaranteed and over €4.8 million in cash prizes to be won. It's the biggest ever. The draw takes place on New Year's Eve and tickets are limited, so pick up yours today. The National Lottery, it could be you. Gift responsibly.
Give the gift of music with the National Concert Hall gift card. Your golden ticket to a range of performances. From Christmas classics and orchestral concerts to the new NCH International Concert Series 2022. Featuring world-renowned artists such as Joyce DiDonato, Halle and Aurora Orchestras and many more. NCH gift cards, the perfect Christmas gift. See www.nch.ie today.
The O'Brien's Christmas wine sale is now on. Save up to 42% on over 200 wines from independent family wineries and well-known brands. Like half-price Monterreal Rioja Gran Reserva, now €16.95. Or Piper Hyde 6 Champagne, now €39.95. Save €15. Pop in store or shop online at o'brienswine.ie. Available while stocks last. Please enjoy alcohol sensibly.
This Christmas, transform your entertainment experience with a Samsung Neo QLED TV. Breathtaking brightness, extreme blacks and exquisite picture detail. Samsung Neo QLED TVs set a new benchmark in TV technology. Shop the Samsung range online at powercity.ie.
Have you been targeted by one of the many text scams doing the rounds?
Oh. Are you being ripped off by your service provider?
Or do you just need help finding the best bargains this Christmas? Here at Newstalk, we want to help. Email consumer@newstalk.com and our experts will take on the case to spot digital threats, tackle bad customer service and track down the best deals to save you money.
Get in touch. Email consumer@newstalk.com.
On 106 to 108 FM, on the Newstalk app, powered by Go Loud and smart speakers. This is Newstalk.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Bernadette Jamieson. The Department of Health has confirmed 7,333 new cases of COVID-19 this afternoon. 410 patients are being treated in hospital, down 10 on yesterday's figures. 107 people are in ICU with COVID-19. Chief Medical Officer Dr Tony Houlihan said a large number of cases can be expected over the next short period of time. Meanwhile, the Taoiseach said ministers are working this weekend to plan schemes that will support those affected by the most recent round of restrictions. Pubs, restaurants, theatres and cinemas must close at 8 p.m. each night under the new rules, while indoor events cannot continue after that time. Micheál Martin says the PUP will be available to support workers in the affected sectors.
Over the weekend now, officials are working with ministers, Pascal Donoghue, Michael McGrath, and across government, the Enterprise Taoiseach's office, my own office, to work on schemes that can help people who are made redundant, but also underpin the industries, the companies, to make sure that they can stay viable, so that when this wave passes, that we can get them reopened.
Meanwhile, the HSE is well on target to have administered 1.5 million booster doses by Christmas. Maruna Lini from Dublin got her booster dose at the National Show Centre in Swords today.
People should be more aware to get their vaccinations done quickly, because it's for the safety of everybody, because we just can't keep everything shut for a longer time. And if everybody is vaccinated, it's all safe around and we can get back to the normal life. So it's more quick for us to get back to normal if everybody gets vaccinated soon. And there's no harm. Like, people have a wrong conception that there's something going wrong with the body or something, but it's normal. It's my booster and I'm all fine.
Met Éireann has issued a yellow fog warning for 6 counties in the east tonight, with poor visibility expected to lead to hazardous conditions. The warning comes into effect for Dublin, Kildare, Longford, Meath, Offaly and Westmeath at 9 o'clock tonight until midday tomorrow. Communications Manager for the Road Safety Authority, Brian Farrell, has this advice for those planning to travel.
Visibility is going to be reduced, so it really is important that you slow down and leave extra space between you and the vehicle in front. Turn on your dipped headlights and of course your fog lights as well. But one of the things we advise is not to follow on the tail lights on the vehicle in front, because you could actually be driving too close to that vehicle, and if you needed to stop, you may not have enough time and space to be able.
It's 2 minutes past 4.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. This Christmas, give the gift of travel with a Ryanair gift card.
Mostly cloudy and dry apart from isolated drizzle patches. Mist and fog will develop in light southeasterly or variable breezes tonight, and the fog will become dense in places. Lowest temperatures 2 to 6 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, watch Arsenal versus Brighton in the Women's Super League this Sunday, live only on Sky Sports.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. Remember, football on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Don't miss Tottenham Hotspur against Liverpool on Super Sunday, live only on Sky Sports. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. You can listen to us on News Talk and also watch us on the digital and social channels for Off the Ball, for Periscope and Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download it. We're joined by Mark Lawrenson, former Liverpool and Republic of Ireland defender, Irish Independent football correspondent Dan McDonnell, and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward to talk about the beautiful game. The Nations League draw. So we got Scotland, Ukraine and Armenia next year, Dan, and... Are we now still in a blooding territory, or are we now in a very much results territory with Stephen Kenny? Are we moving into the realm of no excuses now next year?
I think so. Yeah, I think to be fair, he has been given a fair bit of leeway. And I think, and I would say that as someone who would be quite supportive. But you also have to acknowledge that more understanding has been shown than might have been to other people at times. And as I said, I think there was exceptional circumstances. I think, for example, I was sort of looking at this in an end of year piece. If, for example, someone had made the decision after Luxembourg in March to pull the trigger, which I don't think was ever going to happen, but just say that had happened. It would have been someone who would have left without ever managing Ireland in front of a crowd, without ever having a camp that didn't have COVID in it. Without, I think, probably ever having a proper crack at it. He subsequently, I think, had camps where there's no excuses, there's been no issues around it. They've been able to sort of mingle and mix normally as a squad and have proper time together. And what we've seen is an upturn of results. It finished with the high, as you mentioned earlier, with your moment of a sort of a full house against Portugal and a really unbelievably supportive away crowd in Luxembourg, sort of banging on the windows of the press conference to chant the manager's name. And when you think, they came a distant third in their group, and they still have that sort of fever around the edge of it. It shows that the fans are very much with it, or the match-going fans are very much with it. But of course, it comes to next year, and it's only right. It's the Ireland manager's job that there's going to be proper scrutiny around it. And I think there is no doubt. I think it's a tough draw, but I think also the nature of the Nations League is that you are meant to be playing teams around you of similar ability. That you're meant to be, playing teams who are graded in your level, I suppose, in racing parlance, because of their results over a period of time. So if you have 6 games, it's sort of realistic to expect some strong results from those 6 games. And Johnny touched on it earlier. It's a bit of an unusual schedule, and you have 10 days in June with 4 games, and it's almost like a major tournament, except the major tournament is the last Euros, where there's a lot of flying in it, where Ireland play Ukraine on a Saturday, travel to Armenia on the Tuesday, play Scotland back at home the following Saturday, and then pack their bags straight away and go to play Ukraine again. So really, momentum and fitness and happy camp and no COVID, and a lot of the year will revolve around everything being good in that 10 days. But I think with Scotland and Ukraine playing each other in the World Cup playoff in March, they're not going to have the focus on the Nations League that Ireland will. And I think it's very reasonable to expect the team to be very competitive in that Nations League group.
And Mark, Scotland are resurging now under Steve Clarke. They're in the World Cup playoff against Ukraine. They've been doing well, and Andy Robertson a key part of that.
Yeah, I think they've got 1 or 2 really good players alongside Andy Robertson. They've got a really good manager in Steve Clarke. And he doesn't get carried away, win, lose or draw. And you feel as well that, the nation's behind them, aren't they? They've had quite a long time in the doldrums, feel a little bit like us, and then they've started to get makings of a team together, got some excellent results. And they'll be strong opposition. But in saying that, playing against them twice, it's not it's almost be like a kind of club match as much as anything, John. And as we know, they are beatable. And who's to say it changes so quickly as well, international football. And you're getting a couple of players maybe that have another year later have really come on, or you lose a couple of players. But they're a decent side, but they're certainly beatable.
53106, you guys are just Kenny cheerleaders, completely biased, no objectivity at all when it comes to him on 53106 as we go into the Christmas season 7 days away from Christmas Day.
But was there a context that should we have responded to the draw with a bit more anger? Like, do you know what I mean? Or what's the? Please text back and tell me what would the desirable starting point for that discussion have been, if possible. This is an outrage. I don't know.
It's not easy scoring against Scotland, John.
Oh, well, someone's done it. Yeah, someone's done it here, scored a very famous goal, haven't they? It's not me or Johnny. Not me or Johnny, to be clear.
Or JD. It was was it Ronnie Whelan on the left back, wasn't it? It was the
Ronnie Paul McGrath right back.
Yeah.
We didn't. We kind of knew the 11 players, but we didn't realise what the formation was. I had no idea where I was playing. There was loads of us. So but obviously it worked. He blinded us with science, didn't he, Jack?
Yeah, no.
Just get all the best players on the pitch, really, was it? It was almost like that. It was like sort of school, just pick the best team, and just put the best team out there.
I think when you look at it now, maybe that was exactly his plan. And who's to say he got it wrong?
I think, just on this, I think this is a very exciting time to be an Ireland fan because of the real prospect of us getting to the Euros, whereas the World Cup was probably very optimistic and I was actually talking, I did not understand how this worked, and I had to ask Dan a couple of times. I sent him a text, sorry, you're telling me if we finish second in the Nations League, we'll likely get into a playoff. And then he responded with about 26 messages to explain how this might happen.
So it wouldn't be good radio, John. It would not be good radio to go there.
So
I just said, Johnny, I tried to distill it for you. I said, don't get into it. I said, Ireland win their Nations League group, they'll definitely have a playoff. If they come second, they probably will. Very strong chance. Let's just keep it as simple as that.
And I know Dan has written a bit about that. Stephen Kenny might regret the fact that he's stated an ambition prior to the draw, obviously, to win this group. And I think it's not out of the bounds of possibility. I think this will be quite tight between the front three teams, and as the point is made there, one of them is obviously going to the World Cup, and it's not going to be all that important for them. Kenny's situation, it's hard to forget how much bad luck he had in his first year, and as you mentioned, JD, the Luxembourg Nadir and all these games behind closed doors. But you're just hoping that when we go into June, that we've players sort of coming off good seasons, but certainly that he has players, his best sort of team available. It's kind of hard to predict at this stage how they'll be able to fight over 4 games in the space of 10 or 11 days. But I think the mood will be very, very good. I think the Anthony Barry and Keith Andrews, their futures, maybe the Anthony Barry future might not be as set in stone as Stephen Kenny's at the moment, but as long as he's there, I think the camp is very good, and we've a lot of young players who just might be clicking into gear as well. And I think the mood around the camp has been very good. And let's remember as well, in the context of Ukraine and Scotland, Ireland's 2 games against Serbia and Portugal, drew against both of them at home, lost by the odd goal away. And but for Mark Travers, who didn't have a great night, could have gotten a draw over there. And obviously Ronaldo in Portugal. So I've no reason to think we should be afraid of these games. And I fully understand or fully expect that the place will be sold out for the Ukraine game, the first game of the Nations League, and the atmosphere will be great, and I think that's testament to what Stephen Kenny has done, and that might maybe shut that texter up as well who said we're cheerleaders.
But that June schedule is difficult, but to be honest, you can look at it in a very positive way from an Irish perspective and say that there actually isn't a huge volume of Irish players playing every week in the Premier League that are going to be subject to maybe what are the likes of Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney and Scott McTominay, John McGinn, those big sort of Scotland players who could end up being subject to a sort of a very hectic schedule, particularly the ones with the better clubs who might be going into the sort of Champions League latter stages. Whereas, by contrast, some of the younger Irish players in the Premier League aren't playing, and the ones in the Championship, their season will finish in good time, even if there's some delays or whatever now. So actually, really, I know Stephen Kenny did make a quite pointed comment yesterday about they don't want anyone to be dropping out, and maybe sometimes there's obviously the odd temptation for a club to say to a player, you need to rest up that issue with that, and whatever it might be. But I would think potentially Ireland would be less vulnerable to that maybe than Scotland might be, and some of the other teams that are going to be involved in the Nations League, that marathon.
We'll just get on to a couple of the players in a moment. But just on the game we're doing tomorrow, Laro, Nathan Murphy and Brian Kerr, Tottenham, Liverpool, if it does go ahead. Diogo Jota seems to have really cemented his place in that Liverpool front line recently. And what's the kind of the talk about the Portuguese player around Anfield and his contribution?
Oh, they really like him. And they like the fact that... he's a better goal scorer than Firmino, a different player, obviously, but his timing of his runs, scores a lot of headed goals, as we've seen as well, but he works really hard, and he doesn't get knocked over easy. He's got something about him, even though he's got quite a small frame. He's quite tough, and they like all that. And yeah, I think Klopp's looking at him at the moment and thinking, you are one of my three, alongside obviously the other two. And I know Firmino came on the other night, but at the moment I think it's Jota's position to lose. And I think what's also helped him is Thiago. I mean, I absolutely love watching this bloke. I think he's just fabulous. I really, really do. Yes, he's lacking half a yard. Yes, he's maybe a little late for tackles and stuff. But what he does on the ball is sensational. He's got radar, and just a pity we've not got him 4 or 5 years early. I spend my time. I was there on Thursday now. Just watch him, and he knows where the ball's coming before it's even got to him, which is a sign of a real class player.
Can they do without Fabinho and Van Dijk? They're going to have to isolate. It won't be as easy at Tottenham tomorrow. We don't know what you're going to get from Tottenham, either fresh because they haven't played in 2 weeks, or undercooked.
Well, I think you'll get what you will get is a definitive way of how Tottenham are going to play, because I'm presuming they've actually trained for most of the time, even though the games have been postponed. So he'll have been working them. I bet he's had the morning and afternoon. Conte on the training pitch, so they'll know exactly what it's all about. I think it's going to be very, very tight tomorrow, because he demands that they run, and when they stop running, they have to go and run some more. So I just think it'd be a tough game for Liverpool. Played on Thursday as well, Thursday night, 8 o'clock. So yeah, I'm expecting a decent performance from Tottenham.
Man City were just, I thought, sensational the other night. Now, look, Leeds are struggling a bit, and they don't do the best away from home, and they've had all those injuries and everything. But he seems to be able to keep the players happy. There's a good competition for places, and to me, they're going to win the Champions League. I know they've flopped, and he's blown it tactically at times, but for me, they're streets ahead. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
I just think I think it will be an English winner. That's most definite. That's not an outstanding statement, but I do think it will be. It just depends, really. As you said, John, you alluded it to a little bit where he made one or two strange decisions in the later stages of the Champions League, which ultimately cost them. And why would you change the way that this team plays? I would, looking at what they've got, I wouldn't necessarily be worried about any team that they played against, because if City are on it, they can beat anybody, as you've just mentioned there. So I would say that the favourites, but favourites don't necessarily win. And obviously, when was the last time we saw a really open Champions League final? I certainly can't remember, but that's not saying a lot, because I can't remember last week. But I mean, they would be favourites. And it's just, forget the fact that Manchester City, they're just absolutely fabulous to watch. It would have been great to play in their team. Oh my goodness, how good are they?
I just don't think you can say that with certainty about a cup competition, John. I think if you're certain about a team being able to do something, you'd be thinking, yeah, they're going to win the league because they're showing the quality that'll show. But I just think the recent history of City in the Champions League shows that they have it in them to freeze, or the pressure on them to win the Champions League is such that, I mean, it may well prove to be right, but there's so many variables that can be thrown into the mix. I mean, even if we end up, I don't know, I can't go back to the start, but if we have COVID situations, or you've certain players missing at the wrong time, or whatever it might be, I just couldn't say anything with certainty about the Champions League, just the way it's going to go.
Just on that as well, the Guardiola thing, right? This is his thing, right? So I think the players might be a little bit struck by fear with regard to Guardiola for this, because they know this is what he wants, and he's an intimidating person. And I know the style of football they've played is probably the best we've ever seen in the Premier League. But maybe when it comes to the crunch, that might actually be a problem for them.
They should be winning the Champions League. The Real Madrid won the Champions League 3 years in a row. They won the Champions League 4 years out of 5. If you're the best team in Europe, and Liverpool were the best team around that time for those couple of years when they reached the final, then they won it. You should be winning the Champions League.
Do you think they'll win the league, John? But
yeah,
with absolute certainty. Oh, okay.
Well, nobody can say with certainty, but I just think I do feel that in the hindsight, in the rearview mirror, when they do win the Champions League, and I think it will be this season, people go, oh yeah, well it just wasn't working for them, and then it did work, and it worked spectacularly.
Leon, John.
I know that, but I just the way they're playing at the moment, and all those attacking players, and Rodri being key in that.
Rodri's been no De Bruyne though, really, in terms of.
De Bruyne was brilliant the other night.
But will they ever had a better chance than last year in a way? You know, like they're playing in the final against the Chelsea team that finished. Although they had their FA Cup, maybe they had a little bit of the. You know, they had the hex in them or whatever. Like they were playing a team that they'd finished miles ahead of in their own league, who were playing to try and qualify for the Champions League in the final day. And City, having won the title as the dominant team, still couldn't win the Champions League final against them. You know, so that's just the slight fear.
Yeah, I think the other thing with him as well is, and sometimes I just think he thinks he's the cleverest person in the room. Guardiola. Just that, on occasions, I love the way, I've met him a few times, really nice bloke and all those kind of things, but sometimes I just get the impression that he does think he's the cleverest person in the room, and be interesting to see if they win it. They certainly deserve to win it the way they're playing at the moment, but we'll see.
You mentioned Thiago as well. Liverpool, Liverpool to win their 6 games in the group. I wouldn't. I think Liverpool fans going up against Man City in the Champions League at some stage would be very, very confident that they could do a goal.
They seem to have. There was a couple of Champions League matches. They seem to have even the 2-2 draw. I thought Liverpool were the better team at times there at Anfield. If they met, they're the best two. They're still to me the best 2 teams in the world.
This season, you thought Liverpool were the better team.
Yeah, I did, yeah. But I was watching it.
Was that the game that City were very dominant for the first half, though?
It was a weird game, yeah.
Then again, I was watching it in the Conservative Club outside Tottenham Hotspur's ground.
Oh, well, there you go.
Conservative Club.
You obviously had a few points, although the windows were steamy because City were better than Liverpool that day.
Okay.
It's just Salah, though. You mentioned
also back the winner of the Prix de l'Abbé.
Okay, John, you're not on trial here, John.
JD's history of 2021 or something.
He was watching 4 different. I don't know. These conservative club parties sound pretty good. Or was this a different conservative club you're in, John?
No, this is a subsidised club for Tottenham Hotspur fans only outside the ground.
I thought it was the number 10.
No. This is somebody's living room with £3 a pint with a mask on.
The plus point for Liverpool as well is that Salah, to me, is the best player in the world at the moment. He's playing unbelievably well. He's refreshed, and Liverpool against Man City, should it happen, will create lots of chances, and they won't have any fear whatsoever. And I think it'll be an English winner because I think English football is very dominant at the moment, and after PSG there's very little, and I actually don't think PSG are that good either.
53106, just because someone does not agree with the news talk view on Kenny does not mean they should shut up. The Championship is one of the busiest leagues.
What news talk for you on Kenny? You'll have Brian Kerr on tomorrow who might have a different view to me. I mean, there is no news talk for you. It's not like this isn't North Korea. We've different views than Stephen Kenny. We've probably different views than we had 12 months ago as well. Stephen Kenny might have different views. We're given honest views in Stephen Kenny, and if he doesn't see progress over the last sort of 3 or 4 games, I don't know what he's watching.
You're a great man.
You're allowed to change your view.
Sorry?
You're allowed to change your view.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do that many times a day.
City should have won that game, John.
Conservative club in Tottenham.
These are my principles, and if you don't like them, I'll change them.
You're a great man, John, for the definitive statement. You're taking out Liverpool, Bayern Munich out of the equation there, says Mick in Dublin. The Championship's one of the busiest leagues in the world. Ireland's lower league players will be wrecked, says Dylan.
But it finishes in early May. That's the thing. The Championship does. Unless there's guys involved in the playoffs, they do have a good break to the international break. And actually, sometimes the danger is they end up undercooked. So
how do you do that though? Then so you're finishing early May, but you're playing so you have a break, but then you're playing in early June, and you're supposed to have your off-season break.
That's the challenge. No, that is a challenge that they faced before, and also as well with those internationals. I think I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure they're starting the English season earlier next year to compensate for Qatar.
Yeah.
So an international break going into the 14th of June when the Premier League starts pretty early. It's the first week of August.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
I think as a player you have to have a minimum of 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
You have to.
You mentioned Robertson there. How many games has Robertson played since, we'll say, the start of last season? When you think for Scotland, for Liverpool, and yet he's probably expected.
Actually, not as many as you think, because the Greek lads played a few games.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still lots. It's lots and lots, but it isn't quite as many. And in fact, he was a little bit off at the start of the season. That's why the Greek
How would you
boys-
not be like? And Klopp has spoken about this. Like, how can you expect players at that level, the pace that they play at, to keep producing it? And like, I think it will become a serious issue. And obviously, like as Dan says, it won't affect Ireland as badly as others. But some players are going to be absolutely knackered by the time they go to this stupid World Cup in the winter in Qatar. Like,
and not only that, they'll be injured.
53106. Ooh, did I touch a nerve? Spare me, how many fawning OTB O'Neill Ovens were there compared to the nauseating Kenny cheerleading from the ad set on 53106? Forget league titles, which are usually a run out over 2 to 3 teams. The Ronaldo Ramos dynasty winning 4 out of 5 Champions League titles has real value, says Brian on 53106. Good point there, Brian. Gavin Bazunu recently, 4 clean sheets in a row for Portsmouth?
He's not bad.
Not bad, 19 years of age.
One of the stars of the year, definitely. He's in for a couple of Young Sports Star of the Year awards and stuff.
Where's he going to end up? Like, and how soon, I wonder?
Plymouth.
It's very hard to know. Like, I think, see, he's very determined to keep playing as opposed to necessarily
being Caoimhin
do
Kelleher
the
on the
Caoimhin
bench.
Kelleher thing on it. But it'll come to the stage where that becomes that'll become a discussion point. Like, I mean, City do, like, they sold Angus Gunn a couple of years back. Like, they have Zach Steffen there behind Ederson. But again, like, you have such an exceptionally good number one, Ederson, who I think is maybe 28, 27. There'll come a stage, but I think Bazunu will just keep doing loans. I think he'll probably go for a better loan next year, you know?
Why wouldn't you? Just keep experiencing everything. You know, you got to keep playing, haven't you?
And Aaron Connolly needs to be playing, doesn't he? He was first start of the season the other night, taken off after an hour.
They all do, John. They just, you go and learn your trade, and then you go back. And I tell you the other thing as well is, with these lads at the lower league clubs, and then they go back to obviously the parent clubs and the big clubs, they suddenly realise what they've got. And generally, with the ability, most of these lads kick on again.
The point with Aaron Connolly, though, Aaron Connolly was playing. So if you compare it to Adam Ida, like, Ida has never really gotten a run with Norwich. Like, Aaron Connolly was getting regular game time for Brighton, and his form dipped. So, like, I'm not sure what's gone on in his life personally or whatever off the pitch, but, like, he hasn't been the same player, and it's disappointing to see. But he had his chance. He had game time. Like.
Sorry to cut right, but there would be a view. But on what Laura was saying there would be a view, and I've heard it sort of expressed from people who would, you know, be around the game and stuff, that actually what Connolly needs to do now is just go and do that. Like, he hasn't really had the experience of playing a run of games at first team level anywhere, and he just needs to go and do it, because he's going to be overtaken by lads who are doing that. And I think that's probably the crossroads Connolly is coming to. But he got the good contract last year, you know, which is a big thing for a player to get a decent deal, and clearly likes being around a Premier League club. And who are we to talk? Of course, I'm sure that's a massively tempting thing to do, you know, but I think there comes a stage where maybe he just needs to go out and become a little bit more streetwise.
And Chelsea, Mark, are they slipping a bit for you? 80% possession against Everton. They can't finish. They couldn't finish.
Back, John.
Yeah,
they've lost, but most of the midfield's been off, hasn't it? They'll be back. Don't worry about that. I just think they've got a really good chance of still winning the league. We're not even halfway yet. I really do think they'll kick on. So no, I wouldn't. They're only 4 points off City, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which I know City have been great and all those kind of things, but you know that those top three, or the top three, I think this goes right to the end of the season for those three. They'll be clear of all the others, but it'll be one out of three, obviously.
The Chelsea wobble's a bit weird. Like, I mean, we were all, I think, tipping them to win the league, and the last month has been really alarming.
Conte out of the team, and that's been significant.
Jorginho as well been out, hasn't he?
Yeah, at times. Lukaku obviously has come back, but he hasn't started firing yet, and he hasn't really been almost given the chance to.
And the goalkeeper's he's had a bit of a funny month where he...
Yeah, a lot of players out of contract, like you've Christensen, Rudiger, Thiago Silva.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a problem, John, because if they are seriously thinking of going, they're selling themselves, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're selling themselves to you might think you might be going to Madrid, and then all of a sudden a PSG comes in if you have a really good last 4 or 5 months of the season. So I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about that, because it's like you're in the marketplace, and go on you go. Prove to us what a good player you are.
Okay, we nearly got to leave it there. Laura, are you looking forward to Christmas Day? Are you a turkey and ham man?
Turkey. I'm very much a turkey man. So yeah, I love Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and obviously Boxing Day if we have the football. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Dan, are you a turkey and ham man?
Yeah, no, I am, John. I think we might go around the table here. I'm sure we might get strong views on turkey and ham. I endorse
Turkey and
I endorse turkey and ham.
We're cheerleaders
for turkey here. This is the thing, like, you know, it's a poultry obsessed studio. But listen,
Can't be having turkey, Dan. Like, it's the driest, most bland meat.
That's what sauce is for.
See, this is what.
Why do you need sauce? Meat shouldn't need sauce. Like, you don't need to put anything on steak. Like, you know, turkey's.
Hey boys, you can tell we've not got no football, can't you? Turkey and ham.
This is grim.
Well, with cranberry sauce, bread sauce.
Like, the ham is by far the preferable. You get your coating on the ham with a bit of honey, and turkey's like one of the most disappointing meats you'll taste. It's just so overrated. It's just dry. There's nothing going on there. I'd be a goose man, JD.
Yeah,
I don't know if the listeners.
Goose is far from where you were raised as well, Johnny. To be clear,
absolutely.
You know,
goose maybe.
Yeah, goose.
I don't know if the listeners can take any more of this. We got to leave it there and enjoy your Christmas Day, lads. Laura, Dan, Johnny, thanks so much.
Thanks, JD.
Thank you.
And the latest scores now from the Premier League. Well, there's no games on, are there?
My work is done.
That was
here.
the joke, as McBain would say.
We've a pre-record after this, so that's the reason why we're kind of finishing up a little bit earlier with the live. I'll be back with the live scores as well just before 5 and all the latest in the club action. Middlesbrough 1, Bournemouth 0 full time from the Championship. Blackburn 3, Birmingham City 0 is the latest score as well. Blackpool 1, Peterborough 1, Bristol City 1, Huddersfield 3 and Nottingham Forest 1, Hull 1. And in Scotland, Rangers 1, Dundee United, they've taken the lead there. Motherwell 2, St Johnstone 0, Livingston 0, Ross County 1 and Dundee 0, Hearts 0. Let's get an update from that AIB Leinster Club semi-final. The first one, we remember Kilmacud and Port Arlington meet at 5, but at the moment they're into the second half. Shelmaliers of Wexford against Naas of Kildare, and it is very tight, Owen Sheehan. And obviously seem to have an issue with the line. We can tell you, though, the score, it is Shelmaliers 110, Naas 1-9, 55 minutes on the watch, getting into the closing stages there. We'll be back with a report from Owen and more football content after this on Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk.
Taking stock.
Sleaze, cheese and widespread unease has the art of scraping through finally run its course for UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson.